Trump has apparently abandoned NATO's commitment to Ukraine, America's commitment to Ukraine, and left Ukraine looking for help in a desperate situation in its war against Russia. Well, I think it shows that American foreign policy is changing radically and changing very quickly from one of protecting democratic states against powers that invade, such as Russia has done in Ukraine. But in fact, it's even gone further than that, and it's one where it's prepared to work primarily with Russia to end an invasion of Ukraine that Russia started. So it's, for many of us, I think it's really quite contrary to the normal US priorities, which has been to protect the democratic states, particularly those in Europe, from intrusions from Russia primarily. And it's done it for a long, long time, ever since the end of the Second World War. So it looks like a kind of realignment of the entire order that was established after 1945 to one where the great bigger powers are working together, often against the interests of the smaller ones. I think it will have a big impact. First of all, the United States was the largest contributor of weapons to Ukraine by some margin, and also the United States is the biggest military power in NATO, and again by a big margin. So with the United States now moving towards some kind of rapprochement with Russia, it suggests to me that the NATO alliance might not continue for much longer. We might know this in more detail over the next few weeks, but by and large, the countries of NATO have to consider that this organization, which has been in place now since 1949, might no longer have a future, or a future with the United States as leader. It means that possibly the other members could get together to compensate, to try to make up for some of the shortfall that not having the US as its main power would mean. But the question is, can they do that? And in the case of Ukraine, could they possibly make up the amount of aid that the United States has supplied? And I think it would be very difficult for them to do that. And particularly in a situation where Ukraine has been forced to the negotiation table without really having any prospect of keeping all its territories. It looks to me like Ukraine will be forced to give up territories to Russia, pushed forward by the United States on behalf of Moscow. Well, Ukraine right now is in a situation where it's slowly giving up territory in a war of attrition. It's not a very quick process. It's a very costly one because it means that Russia is moving at a very slow pace, taking town after town over several months. And to occupy much of Ukraine, to occupy, for example, all of Kherson region, all of Zaporizhia region, which the Russians have claimed they want, it would take maybe years at the current progress that the Russian army has made. If the supply of arms is completely cut off, it means that Ukraine will not have the weapons to slow the Russian forces down. And therefore, without a negotiated agreement, the Russian advance would speed up. And I think there's no way really to stop that if Trump carries through on this and doesn't give any further aid to Ukraine. I think at the moment it's supposedly suspended, which suggests that there may be openness for some more talks. But since the talks in Washington went so badly, it's hard to know how Ukraine could really come back again and make some kind of deal with Trump and Vance. Well, not in my opinion, no. I mean, I don't really think any of this sounds particularly fair. You've got an aggressive nation that's come into Ukraine, taking its territory, and the Western powers helped Ukraine to defend itself, and with the ultimate goal of pushing the Russians out of the territory they've occupied. And if that's no longer the case, if the largest power has decided no longer to protect Ukraine, then Ukraine is more or less in a weak position. It's really been left to its own devices. And under those circumstances, it will be hard for Ukraine to withstand further Russian encroachment and continue the war on a long-term basis. Ukraine would have to come to terms. And then the question arises, what territories might Ukraine be prepared to give up? And which territories would it want to retain? And if it retains them, what guarantees are there that it will be able to do so on a long-term basis without further invasions from Russia? It's by no means clear how the Russian army will be stopped from future invasions unless there's some kind of security guarantee given to Ukraine to come to its help, to come to its aid, to protect it by United States and its Western allies. And, without that, I don't know. I mean, it would possibly, other countries of the world could play a role in any kind of peace agreement if it means that we're going to have peacekeeping troops sent to Ukraine. But so far, Russia has really not agreed to that. And therefore, the question is, how will the peace be monitored and who's going to do it?